I'll get through this quickly, Rick. Good evening, everyone. Calling to order the March 23rd City Council meeting. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening, and I understand there's quite a few people watching us online, so thank you very much for joining us that way. And Sherry, can you take a roll call, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor Miller?
I'm here.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Present.
Councilmember Bryan?
Here.
Councilmember Frizzlone?
Here.
Councilmember Politis?
Here.
Thank you, Sherry. Reverend Bob? Reverend Bob, while you're on your way up, could we just tell the people, again, we're going to be having Movie Mania. We met the other day.
That's right.
We determined the dates we'll be publishing for you. Melissa will have something on Facebook that we vote for the top 3.
Yes, if you visit our Facebook page at the Drive-In Church, there'll be something up. She's been having trouble connecting with the production company, so hopefully by the end of the week or early next week, there'll be something on our Facebook page. And I think we share that with the city's Facebook page as well, so you'll have an opportunity to weigh in on probably 7 to 8 movies. We'll narrow it down to the
Great.
top.
And for those of you that don't know, I think this would be, did we say 7th year?
I was gonna look that up, wasn't I?
So that the cooperation between Daytona Beach Shores and the Drive-In Christian Church, we put on 3 really great Disney movies, free of charge, so we'll let you know more in advance, but bring your family and have a good time.
Family related. They aren't always Disney movies. Sometimes we get in a blackout space where we can't show a Disney movie, but they are family.
Okay, thank you for being with us, and please lead us in prayer.
I invite you to stand as you're able and join me in prayer. Almighty and Holy One, as we gather tonight, we do feel a touch of spring beginning to make its way into the air, and we are excited about the opportunities that spring and summer bring to us, especially as we live in this beautiful place close to the ocean, and as we welcome so many to this area to enjoy spring and summer with us. But as that new life and that hope comes to us, we also share our hearts of sorrow and despair for the tragedies and the loss of life that have been suffered in Atlanta and also Boulder, Colorado. These senseless killings that have left so many devastated, life lost, communities broken. We extend our sympathies and our prayers and our hands and our hearts to them in this time of loss. We pray, O God, that what we do here in this place tonight might show a different side of community, of neighbors coming together to work for the common good, of elected officials practicing their work with integrity and on behalf of the greater good of this community. We lift them up in our prayers for your wisdom to be with them. And most of all tonight, we, as Boulder suffers and mourns the loss of a law enforcement officer, we lift to you the law enforcement officers and safety personnel of our city, that you would keep them safe and return them each and every day and night to their families and their loved ones, safe and alive and ready to do their work for another day. These things we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Councilman Bryant, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance.
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At the present time, we do not have any presentations or public notices So we're going to move right along to approval of the minutes. So we'll start out first with the City Council Charter Workshop minutes from March 9th, 2021. I do want to let everyone know we were thinking that this would take 3 months of working on workshops, and we're very pleased to say that we got it accomplished in 2 months. So that will be the last one that we'll have right now. Our attorney, yeah, I know. I was going to say Councilman Frizzle, I'm crying, but so now we'll be back on our attorney to regret some of those things and decide, and we'll probably see them on the ballot. Would that be November of 2022?
I thought we had discussed August of 2020.
August of 20, okay.
I'll have to look at my notes. but I'm
Okay.
pretty sure it's
It'll be
August.
2022, but you'll look forward to those. Okay, do I have a motion to accept those workshop minutes from March 9th?
Motion to accept. Second the motion.
Do we need any discussion on that charter workshop? If not, Sharon, can you please take a roll for us?
Yes, ma'am. Councilmember Frizzlone,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes.
Councilmember Politis,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes. Thank you. Okay, next we'll go on to the City Council minutes of March 9th, 2021. Do I hear a motion to accept that, please?
I move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Second? Okay. Any discussion or anything we need to talk about on those minutes? If not, Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Councilmember Politis,
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzlone,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next, we have one item under the consent agenda. If there's nothing that we have to remove from that, do I hear a motion to accept that consent agenda?
I'll move to accept that consent agenda item.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, any discussion?
I'd like to just point out to the residents and to everybody that year after year, it seems like 50% of our accidents are in parking lots. So please be careful in the parking lots. Fortunately, they're not really bad accidents, but still 50% of the accidents month after month, year after year in our city are in the parking lots. So please be careful. Please be a little extra diligent when you're in the parking lot, because that's where 50% of our accidents occur.
Okay, thank you. Sherry, can you take a roll, please?
Councilmember Politis,
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzlone,
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer,
Yes.
Mayor Miller.
Yes, thank you. All right, Attorney Carey, what do you have for us on your report this evening?
Thank you, Mayor. Council. For the city attorney report, the last couple of weeks, we have the second charter review special meeting, and I have drafted the ordinance for council consideration. We're going to sit on that for a little while and bring it to you closer to the time, as discussed in the meeting. Finished drafting the micromobility ordinance that will hear tonight. Met with the code enforcement office to provide legal counsel on some issues they're having. Reviewed charter provisions and ordinances relating to procurement. Reviewed purchasing policies and drafting an ordinance. And I'll be getting with Kurt about drafting that pretty soon, probably later this week if he's available. And worked with Halifax Health General Counsel's Office to negotiate a modification for the lease for additional parking.
Thank you very much for that report. Do we have any questions for Attorney Carey? If not, we're going to move on to the city manager report. Unfortunately, our city manager, Michael Booker, was not able to be with us this evening. So we have our assistant manager, Kurt Swartzlander.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go ahead and read Mr. Booker's report, and then I have a few additional items to add to it. As some of you may have heard, Bank of America has announced that June 22nd will be the final day of operation for their Daytona Beach Shores branch. We believe this is a property where it may be beneficial for the city to try to acquire that due to its close proximity to McElroy Park and the pavilion, so that we may come back to council for that at a later time.
And Kurt, I'd like to stress there too, this didn't go by without us noticing. Myself and the city manager met with them every month since last July, expressing to them how important it was for the residents of this city, and they said they would consider it. I think they're closing a couple branches, and unfortunately this was one of them that they are closing. But to let you know that we did work on it diligently, and we got the sad news probably probably about 3 weeks ago before they sent out the notices. They did give us the courtesy of letting us know. So I just wanted to let you know that. Thank you, Kurt. Go on.
Also, Armed Forces Day falls on Saturday, May 15th, and we are planning a live celebration right out back in the Veterans Park. We hope to have as many of our veterans and their families present for that event. And park maintenance, at the last meeting, City Manager Booker asked for permission to talk to the county about getting out of that maintenance that we currently do on the county parks. And at this point, there is not an update, even though one says it will be provided. We have not received that back from the county yet, so hopefully by the next meeting, we'll have some more information on that.
Okay, I do have a couple questions on that, and I'll start with you, and maybe they'll go on to Fred. So right now, you know, we've decided that we're doing 2 of the parks and 2 more are coming on board, and we want right now to cancel it. Is that what the ultimate is that we want, that we do not want to be involved in that anymore? Or would we be able to negotiate if they were able to pay us, you know, we'd probably have to put on another maintenance worker? Fred, can you answer that? Is that something we might be interested in, or do we all out want to say, no, we don't want to do? Kurt or Fred, whoever wants to answer.
I think I can answer that part. I think we're interested in continuing to maintain it, but not solely on the cost of Daytona Beach Shores taxpayers.
Okay, great.
Because we're funding that right now, even though the county collects taxes to do that as well. So if they're willing to properly pay us, we would gladly maintain those. I believe we maintain them at a higher level than the county would. Not to offend anybody if they're from the county here, but I believe we keep a higher standard here, and I think if we're able to receive some funding for that, we would be glad to do it.
See, and that's what I was a little bit concerned about. I know that we do maintain them to a higher standard, and I think that's what the people on the shores are accustomed to, and I want that to continue. I don't want it to go downhill from there. So if you could please pass it on to City Manager Booker, that's part of the discussion I would like to have. And then, does anyone happen to know, I think we found out Andy, is it Romano Park?
Yes.
Is owned by Orman. Okay, so Fred, do we know, like for any other park, does any other city take care of the maintenance, or is it all county?
I don't know about any other city, but I do know that of the beachfront, you know, like Sunsplash and Daytona doesn't take care of any of the county parks, the county does it. And so I do know that Romano is the city of Ormond Beaches, so they take care of that one. But the city of Ormond Beach doesn't take care of any county parks. But I don't know about, you know, the rest of the municipalities in the county. Didn't look into that.
Okay, and I know the agreement we had, is that dating back, how many years ago would you say we made that agreement?
The Frank Rendon agreement goes back to probably mid-90s or early 90s, and that was a joint effort where we combined an existing city park with the county property, and it was a joint property with both councils. So we entered into a memorandum of understanding. That's the agreement that requires notice of 1 year to get out of the agreement to do the maintenance work there. And then Van Avenue was part of Cook Development when they actually moved the right-of-way to make more land, and so the city, so that they could do a project that never happened, but the city agreed to do the MOU for that as well.
Okay, so we're willing to
That's more
negotiate,
recently.
not 10% of nothing, but we're willing to negotiate a price on doing that. And you're all right with that for your maintenance
Yeah.
department?
The only caveat that I would add to what Kurt said is that, in my mind, if we're going to maintain, if the county would like us to maintain them, I'd like to do all 4. And conversely, if they're going to do it, then it doesn't make sense for us to continue to do those 2. And then they're going to be over here doing the other 2 new ones. So they might as well do them all, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
Excuse me, I thought we actually directed the city manager to negotiate with the county manager last time.
I thought we asked to tell them that we weren't going to do it anymore. Did you feel like we still had, we were doing it?
I thought we asked him to.
Well, we have to give a year's notice, and I believe that was the direction that we went, but with the option of, obviously, we can negotiate that if they want us to continue to do it and add the new parks.
All right. I know the city manager reached out to the county manager, George Reckenwald. From what I understand, he did not get back to them. So we haven't done anything yet, except reaching out.
I guess I had to look at the minutes, but I'm pretty sure we actually gave him direction to negotiate with the city county manager.
To continue to do it for.
Continue if we can get proper reimbursement.
Okay, all right, okay. Yeah, we'll go back on the minutes. If that's not what was in the minutes, we'll make sure that's what happens going forward. Okay, you had a couple more things?
Two more things, yes. The Oceans 25 project, they reached out to us today. They would like to do a large concrete pour on Friday. Yeah, they have asked to start earlier than our normal hours. Our normal allowed construction hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. They're trying to do the pour in one day rather than two. And it's under the city manager's authority to approve anything outside of that time, but since it came up today and we're here, I was going to approve that, but unless you have any objections, time from 6:30 to 7:30, so half an hour early and a half an hour late to give them time to complete that pour.
And it's this one-time exception, is that
This
correct?
is a one-time only deal, just for this Friday.
All right, I'm fine with that.
That's fine.
Okay. And then the last thing, right before the meeting, Bill Griffin from Halifax Health stopped in, and he told me that he's happy to say that they are still on their timeline for construction completion, which is May 17th, according to their contractor, and then they are looking to open July 1 for full services. So we're
Very excited about that.
The deadline is close.
Okay, and I also hear him say that he would be available for our next meeting, anyone that might have any questions or comments?
Yes, we will have I believe, the next meeting, I'm looking at the attorney, the amendment to that lease that they requested on the next meeting.
Yes, that'll be here for the council's approval, first meeting.
And so Mr. Griffin will be here for that.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in this evening and filling in, we appreciate it. Do we have any questions for our Assistant City Manager? If not, thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
And next, we don't have any old business, so we'll be moving on to new business. And that is a discussion on some of the crosswalks in our city. And we're honored to today have Fred Farrell. You have a presentation you're going to be giving us? Thank you, Fred. Can you tell us again who you work for and your title there? I know you've worked with the city in conjunction for quite a few years.
My name is Fred Farrell. I'm the Chief Engineer for Traffic Engineering Data Solutions, a firm that we founded in 2007 in DeBerry. And we've done a lot of work for the shores and hope to continue doing work for the shores.
So what do you have for us? So I know, again, this comes up quite a bit, Fred, on, crosswalk here or there and whatever. And I know there was a study done, and I'm sure you're going to be going over that with us this evening.
Yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, it's no elaborate presentation. It's a presentation to say where we were, where I think we are, and where do y'all want to go, without really getting into a lot of details, because there's lots of opinions on crosswalks. There's lots of opinions on the devices you use for crosswalks. There's legislation in front of the Florida legislature right now wanting to change some things. There's national standards that we all follow, and those are continued in flux. And we also, there's been a big shift in Florida over the last 20 years that I've been around a while, so I'm from the old school where we were always more cars, faster, quicker, get them through the area.
Sorry. Pick up on the microphone there.
See if that's better.
Is that better?
Can everyone hear Fred? Just speak a little louder.
Can't hear.
Anyway, so I was from the old school of we were pushing cars, we were designing roads for speed and volume. That dynamic has changed in today's era. There's a lot of emphasis on multimodal, other types of transportation, and in particular pedestrians. Being in Florida, we have an ocean on both sides of the state. People like coming to the beach. We were reading a Facebook post from a lady down in New Smyrna. She was complaining about all the people in New Smyrna. And I'm thinking, I used to be one of those all the people because we lived in the land. So, it's a popular thing. The weather's beautiful. That's why we're here. So what I want to do is go through this, and Sherry, I'm used to using a mouse, so I guess do I just hit the mouse I can't stand? Feasibility study. We did a feasibility study in 2015 for the River to Sea TPO. It was funded jointly by the City of Daytona Beach Shores, by the TPO, and of course DOT funds the TPO. That study evaluated 19 locations along State Road A1A and the shores. Many of those were existing. Some of them were new locations. Just to give you a little history before that, I can remember when Booker was a pup over here and I was at the DOT, that there was a plan submitted by the City of Daytona Beach Shores to put a continuous median from Fraser south to Dunlawton, no breaks. And Ski remembers it too. And I can remember looking at Mike and saying, "Are you sure?" And he looked at it and he says, "Not anymore." And that's where the little, we call them donuts, that's what we called them, in the little islands that came up. When we did the overhead to underground conversion, those were put back. And some of them have been enhanced. But anyway, as part of the feasibility studies, the recommendations included adding some new islands, modifying some existing ones, adding the rectangular rapid flashing beacons, and maintain the existing like they are with no changes. I don't know if you can see that, but that's basically the table out of the feasibility study and some of the recommendations that went along with that. Understanding this study is 7 years old now. In 20...
Stop you there, though. Do you see, I don't know how much you know about the city, but do you see any significant change from that would increase, decrease the traffic, stay about the same?
If you're talking about pedestrian traffic is origin destination type things. In the shores, a large draw is the beach. Then you have a community, whether it's a condo or whether it's a residential neighborhood, that draws people to that. And then if you have beach access points, that kind of concentrates them there. Where they come from and go to is like any beach community that doesn't have a physical barrier. And ask yourself this same question, the beach crossover or the median crossover is a quarter mile down the road. The walkover is halfway between here and there. Am I going to walk down, go across there, and then walk back up the road? Some people will say, yeah, they'll do it. I'm here to tell you I won't do it. I didn't become as lazy as I am by doing extra walking down the road. So we dealt with that in Daytona back when we built the first overpass. Someone asked, who's going to use it? I.e., that's why the fences are there. It's a quarter mile walk to go across the pedestrian overpass. It's 300 feet if you just walk across the road. Mm-hmm. So it's if you don't force the people, some people are very good. They will go and oblige and do what, quote unquote, the right thing. Others will do what most of us do is, there it is, I'm walking to it, look left, look right, look left, and take off. Okay. In 2016, we did the design work for 3 locations that the shores paid for the construction. We enlarged and enhanced the ABC Liquor Island. The Publix one has been hit at least 3 times with projects. We've done it, DOT's done it. Our project was to put the rectangular rapid flashing beacons up, and then the Florida Shores Island right up above right just north of the overpass.
Are any of these slated to get the flashing lights? Or the only one we currently have in the shores with the flashing light is in front of Publix, is that correct?
That's correct.
Are any of these slated, do you know, on the drawing board to get flashing lights?
Not to my knowledge. And there is, I can't remember exactly when we did the construction project south of Dunlawton. I think there is one south of Dunlawton. Yeah, at Amelia. Yeah, there is one down there. So what do we do now? A couple of things I wanted to look at. What are the pros for crosswalks? And I took this right out of DOT's traffic engineering manual, which gives us our direction on how to do this work. And it's basically marked crosswalks and pedestrian treatments that are well located and thoughtfully designed can serve as a mechanism for improvement of pedestrian connections, community walkability, and pedestrian safety. And what that's trying to say is that just don't put them everywhere. You just don't willy-nilly, let's put one here, let's put one there, and it fixes everything. There has to be some thought process to it. There has to be a need for it, and are people going to use it? I have the opportunity to go over into Lombok Key, and DOT went over there and put, I think, 6 RRFBs just randomly along through there. Being still have enough of the traffic engineering geek in me to go back and say, are they even using it? There's 3 I know of that on one side has a sidewalk or a bike path, the other side it goes into a ditch or grass. No one uses those. There's 2 that line up with big residential areas and beach access. They're slammed. So, you know, you look at that and you think, well, they thought about those, but did they think about the other, or did they just put them in a half-mile apart? And I didn't do it because I don't know what they did. Anyway, cons for the crosswalk, what are some of the negatives? Just like I just said, they're not suitable for all locations. And unfortunately, some people, that creates a false sense of security. There's a crosswalk here, I'm going to step out because I have the right of way. I'm a pedestrian, I step in that crosswalk, I have the right of way. 4,000-pound car that doesn't stop, whether you have the right of way or not, you still lose. And a lot of times a false sense of security there. Multi-lane roads, vehicles can impede the view. You can have someone stop in the outside lane, but the inside lane doesn't see you walking across, and you get hit there. If they're not carefully placed, they can go unutilized, and that then builds disrespect for the other ones. And the impact to driveways and side streets. Any place you put one of these physically in a road, and especially with all the driveways through the shores, it's hard not to block someone's access point. So that's something you have to look at also.
And Fred, you don't have this on here, but I've been witness probably to 2 or 3 since, you know, we moved here, that you stop because you see someone, I don't stop behind you. And, you know, that's happened so many times that, you know, just a rear end because of that. But you don't have that listed on cons. Is that because
it is one, and it can be one. Typically on roadways and the shores is fortunate, your speed limit is 35. Ski and his staff do a real good job enforcing the 35. And it's one of those that you don't have that as often. I don't know what the statistics are in the shores. We did one for DOT on a road that was 45 mile an hour. And they were having a lot of rear end crashes, and they were having a lot of crashes where someone would stop, but to keep from rear ending them, they'd swerve around. And that's even worse, because then you have a pedestrian who's exposed. And our count technicians called while they were doing it, and we just said, don't walk, because they were walking just to put activations, and we said, don't do it anymore because you're going to get ran over. We witnessed 3 crashes in 4 hours.
Wow.
Of the type you're talking about. But it was a road that's posted for 45, cars were traveling in excess of 60, and it just didn't work. When we did the study, we were not asked and we weren't tasked with coming up with priorities as far as where the locations would be. We were only looking at locations. As an engineer, we do things with data, and when we did our counts on a weekday and a weekend, and rule of thumb is the higher the volume of pedestrians, the more the need for the crosswalk. And those were the recommendations. If you're looking at some of the recommendations, you can see the numbers with the pedestrian crossings. And some of those, it was just to enhance the existing crossings, because some of these are already in real good locations. Fraser Road's not even in the city. And that was when I was putting this together, I was looking, I was like, that's not even
that's
in
the
the
first
city.
street.
That's the first street in Daytona, but it was in our study, so I included it. That one has the most, and I think a lot, you're coming from a residential area and then you have a beach walk over there. But that one's not in your city.
Okay, what about Esmeralda?
Esmeralda's the second one, yeah.
All right, but does that go into A1A? I was thinking that was one of the side streets by McElroy Park, or?
Esmeralda approaches from the west and it does intersect, and then you got the draw is the beach walk over there. I think it's actually a vehicular access at El Portal. I think it
Where's
was.
Esmeralda on A1A?
I think it's
close to the cracked egg there, maybe?
It's the first street south of,
That's
on the
Simpson.
west side, it's the first street south of the beach access.
That seems quite high.
Yeah, so it's just north of Simpsons.
Okay, great.
On the north side of that plaza.
Okay, thank you.
And then the third one I listed on here is the one here in front of City Hall, which is Bellmead.
Okay, and we have.
Yeah, and you have an existing one there, but our study was recommending for an enhancement. Because what we're trying to do is grow the size of these so that there's more sight distance, more stopping opportunity for a vehicle should a pedestrian cross there. And I think that was it. Other locations, like I said, there was 19 existing and new. We attempted to quantify the study, 6 years old. There have been some changes in the shores. I don't know, and I'm not up to date on what all the changes are. I know y'all have had some new hotels, redevelopment of some area. Is that enough to make changes in the study? We can count this 52 weekends of year, and we'll give you probably 26 different priorities because it depends on that weekend where the people are crossing. And then it always comes down to what's the preference of the city, what are you trying to do? What's your ultimate goal in handling this issue?
Hey, how often do they normally do these studies for a city?
Pretty much anytime, like this one was funded through the TPO and y'all went through the priority process to get funding for the study. It's based on a need and a request. That there's no set schedule for them to just do the study.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. The studies that were done were all manual, right? You just had somebody there counting?
Yes, sir.
Have you surveyed the state of the art? It seems to be like there should be ways of collecting that data without having such labor intensive.
Depends on how accurate you want to be. We use video a lot, and I don't remember if we used video. I think we actually had 8 people over here at a time doing it. But video is something that we're doing most of these corridor studies with now, but then we manually count it back at the office. That works for us 2 different ways. One, it gives us the ability to control the environment and make sure you get quality data. The second thing it allows us to do is to go back and do the checks, because data can change based on something that happened outside the view of the instrument, and we're able to see that with the way we set our cameras up. So we do use video, but it's still on manual count.
It's still manually going through it. I would think by now there would be automated analysis of video.
There's automated analysis of it, and the actual camera we use is MyoVision. And if we want them to count it, they have the algorithms to do it. We would ship it off to Canada. They do it, and they ship it back to us, and we write them a check. And then we do our quality checks on their data and decide whether we're going to use it or not. But it's called MyoVision.
So you pay for the automated and the manual.
If we have to, because the last thing, as somebody who has to sign and sell it and take the professional and legal responsibility for it, it needs to be as accurate as we can make it. Pedestrians are tough when it comes to the automation side. Vehicles are easier because you can see it, but when it starts getting into the early morning hours or dusk, it's harder for the automation to work 100% because it depends on lighting, cameras, where you set it, how you set it. I can give you a whole list of them, or give you the list they give us when we don't agree on something.
Can you go back to slide 7? Are you able to get back to slide 7?
Am I able to? If I had a mouse, I would know how. Oh, somebody's doing it. It's automatic. I love it.
Is that you,
There you
David?
go.
How's that?
Okay, that's great. For those who aren't familiar with this, this is the north side of Oceans West where it meets A1. Directly across the street is an entrance to the beach. I go there, I see people every day. They go straight across. There's a crosswalk just to the south of that, which I call the crosswalk to nowhere. Why can't we move that crosswalk up to where the people actually go? Because nobody uses that crosswalk. It goes from a berm on the townhomes to across the street where there's nothing basically there. So,
Gave you a presentation about a year ago with some options that you could consider if you wanted to move that. One of the cons, if you look down, is the impact to driveways and side streets. To move that crosswalk up and put a mid-block and put an aisle in there, you block off the left turn lane over into Oceans West. And that was the discussion we had about a year ago. Does it make sense? Depends on what your priority is, whether it's the left turn into Oceans West or if it's the straight across movement to the beach access. Because me, like you, if I walk out of Oceans West, I'm walking straight across the street. I'm not walking down to,
that's what everyone does. I have another observation that I walk on the beach every day, so I cross at City Hall in a crosswalk. When I go in that crosswalk, some cars don't stop. The crosswalk doesn't make them stop. However, if a one in the right lane crosses, I still get them flying down in the left lane. And in fact, that happened at Publix with the lights and everything else. A lady was crossing and a car went around the car that had stopped for her and hit her. So this notion that crosswalks are safe is, I think people really have to be careful when they're in a crosswalk. We have another situation down by Publix. It says pedestrian crossing painted in the street before you get to the crossing. And I have actually seen a lady with a walker cross there because she thinks that's the pedestrian crossing. The cars should say pedestrian crossing ahead and not just pedestrian crossing, because people are misreading that as the pedestrian crossing. So there's a lot of issues with pedestrian crossing other than just put it in and everybody's going to be safe. I think people have to be aware of that, and I'm aware of it. I'm a lot more agile than a number of the people who are crossing the street, but and I also make sure that I look around that car that stopped to see if anybody else is coming. But people need to be aware that just because there's a crosswalk there doesn't mean that they're safe, and I'm a witness to it almost on a daily basis.
That's the unfortunate thing. If we lived in a perfect world where every sign that was put up was obeyed and every light that was put up was obeyed and everybody, Sheriff Chitwood about it. If somebody is not, ordering something while they're on the phone or whatever, it's one of those that multi-lane thing that you just spoke about where the right lane stops. So you say, okay, I got it. And you start walking out, and here comes somebody flying down the left lane.
Exactly.
It's a very common thing. Just because you put a crosswalk out there, there's still a responsibility to the pedestrian to look and make their own actions.
I think for a lot of people it creates a false sense of security, and that's a danger.
I just had one other question before, and then Stuart, I have a question for you. So if we decided we wanted a crosswalk at X spot, so do we pay for, does state do a study and say, no, you're not putting one there because it would slip? Tell me the steps that you would take to get one, or can they overrule us and say, that's a state highway, no, you're not gonna have one?
The latter statement is true. It's a state highway, and if they say no, the answer is no. And then you can go back and forth a few times, and maybe you can change it to a yes. But
Speak up so everyone can hear you.
I'm sorry. I mean, if the state says it's a no, it's typically a no. I mean, you can negotiate that to a yes sometimes. What the state would do, they would refer back to the TPO study, since that's the latest thing they have on file.
This thing you're showing us,
The
okay.
one I'm talking about here. And if it supports it, that will satisfy the need for the study, particularly if they're in favor of it and it says what they want it to say.
Okay.
I did that job. I know how it feels. That's how you do it. And then you say it has to be designed and constructed. And quite frankly, if you want it done in a reasonable amount of time, you'll pay for designing it, you'll pay for construction under a permit. If you want it to be done by the state two ways it can be done: as a standalone project, which it probably wouldn't be because it'd be so small in the big scheme of their business, or if there's a resurfacing job coming through, that's when you have your best opportunity to get things like that added. And then they would pay for it then. But the DOT, with the COVID issues that had the downturn in the finances and things like that, they've deferred projects. So this would not be a high priority to come in and put on their list unless there was a burning, story to support it. And, those are far and few between. There are those, but they're far and few between. So if it's something that the Shores wanted, it would most likely, if you guys want it in a reasonable amount of time, probably be something you would need to look to fund. If you wanted to try to compete for funds for the river to CTPO, where the city of Daytona Beach Shores is not lab certified, which no little city or any large city, I think Daytona Beach is certified, but I think that's it, them in Volusia County. You would have to, again, rely on the state to do it. We were going to convert the signal down at Liberty through the TPO. Finally, it became so frustrating that DOT even said, here, we'll just pay for it, because the process was it wasn't worth it. And so, probably on your dime.
We thank you very much for coming.
Madam
this
Mayor,
evening.
Madam
Yes,
Mayor.
certainly.
I want to ask him a question.
Certainly.
First of all, thank you for your presentation. But let me ask you this. This is your career. This is what you do. You drive up and down here. We have citizens that want to put crosswalks here, other locations here and there. Do you see a need based on what limited information you have, just off the top of your head? And if I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
Well, that's fine. There are a few locations in the Shores that if I was making the decision for the DOT, I would be in favor of a few places in the Shores. One is existing, it would need an enhancement. I agree with you on the misplaced one, but at the same time, that has impacts to people that are larger possibly than the pedestrians. And then there's sections that don't have a break in traffic, the north end, and I would look for a suitable location there. However, when we did the study and came up with recommendations for 19 locations, absolutely not. Putting these all over the city, again, where are you coming from and where are you going to? What's the most direct route? If there's a lot of you doing that, that makes sense. I mean, I hate to take 30 plus years of a career, and I'm not a pedestrian person, I'm not a planner, I'm an engineer. But I would hate to take 30 years and just say, oh, let's do this, let's do that. There has to be some facts to it. The Shores is also very fortunate. We pray that it doesn't happen as we walk out of here, but safety-wise, the Shores is a rather safe roadway, State Road A1A. But it just takes one, and that one is too many, so
Thank you.
Well, could I ask you one question too? We've got a lot of area that has no pedestrian crossings. People are getting across every day. And I've heard some people say, people in the know, say that actually they consider the fact that the people look to the left, go to the middle, and then stand there, and then they look to the right to make sure nobody's coming, and then they go across the other half. And that is possibly a very safe way to get across the street.
statistically speaking for the Shores, it has been.
Any other questions? Thank you again very, very much for coming up. Stuart, I just had one quick question for you, and then I'd like our chief. Can you silence your phone, whoever that is, please? So, do you do I don't know if you do traffic studies or not, and I was trying to ask Fred about it too, and maybe you'd have more information. So, this study came out in 2016. Do you have anything that's saying, yes, our pedestrian traffic has increased, decreased, stayed the same?
There's no new information that we have at our disposal.
Okay, do we ever get that information?
For traffic counts or for pedestrian?
Well, then let me ask you another way. Have our traffic counts
So the county typically does traffic studies every year, and usually it's about
April, May?
I don't remember the exact time that they do it, but it's usually about a year's lag. I don't believe that we have the data for last year as yet with regards to the traffic counts, but as soon as those come out, we can provide those to council.
Okay, all right, that's all I needed. Director
Stuart, is that
Dubinsky?
just based on a very short time period, the studies?
I don't know the exact time period. I think Fred Farrell might be able to better answer that than I can. But it's usually based on the meters that whenever you drive over this, the black things that you see across the road. I can't remember exactly what they're called. I think they're called traffic count strips. Yeah, and that's basically what's used. The time period, I don't really understand that. I think Fred Farrell is in a better position to answer that than I can.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, before the chief comes up.
Trying to keep the chief in his seat. We do those for the county, and they.
Sorry, I should have asked that.
And their volume, their traffic volume, they're not pedestrian, and they're done between January 15th and October 15th throughout the year, with no counts being done during spring break, bike weeks, speed weeks, things like that. So, but it's part of their concurrency program that they put together years ago.
Okay, when would we get the 2020 results?
We finished them last year. I'm not sure why we did their spreadsheet. I don't know when they release them and what they do. I know that we've already started 2021.
Fred, you and I talked about this about a year ago, but there's very inexpensive equipment now that you can put out that will monitor speed and traffic count, that the city could even acquire and get continuous speed and traffic counts if that's something we wanted to do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there's equipment out there that does speed on a 24-hour basis. And
It doesn't involve laying down the street,
no, it's typically done with
it's done with radar.
it's done with radar, which I think Wavetronics is the brand name.
Director Dubinsky? Well, you're the one that has the most knowledge about this. How many times have we talked about this? But anyway, again, crosswalks. Do you see a need from your public safety that someone says to you, Chief, we need another one here, we need this one lit up, or what feedback do you get?
Well, I think what Fred said is probably true. We could probably use a couple more. Fred and I, we've known each other for a long time, and my opinion is very similar to his about crosswalks. And I see the same things that Mel does. I use the street to get across too. I live on the beach side. It's a very, very difficult situation, but people think because they have the right of way that they're going to argue with the car, and they'll lose every time. I will tell you this, you're talking about traffic. Anecdote, I've lived here for 23 years. The past 7, 8 years, traffic is a lot less than it was. Once all the hotels started being converted to condominiums, and we started having a lot of second homes here, the traffic count is way down. I don't know the numbers, and hopefully it'll build up again, but we don't have the same amount of traffic that we used to have. At night, midnight, there's not much traffic, other than spring break or bike week or whatever. So if you wanted to put a couple more crosswalks in, I certainly wouldn't have a problem with it.
Any opinion where you'd put them in?
Well, the one at Oceans West Boulevard, the way Fred designed it, I thought might work, but there is a trade-off with that one. And he gave you the presentation, it's about a year ago now. I thought that would be a good place, and perhaps one in the north end. I'm always in the street, and I constantly see people getting across, just like I do. I go to the middle, I look both ways, and then I walk across. And people that get hit are either not paying attention or it's really, really a bad thing. We just had someone got hit about a month ago, and that was a horrible situation. But the driver was obviously, well, it's going to come to trial, but the driver was distracted and didn't see the pedestrian and should have seen the pedestrian.
Do we know if texting was involved in that?
Don't know. She got a lawyer very quickly.
Was it at Crosswalk or?
No, it wasn't anywhere near Crosswalk. But it's just it's an accident, and the person that was crossing either didn't see the car or the car was going too fast and we ended up with a traffic homicide.
Do you have an opinion of where you would put one in the north end?
Not off the top of my head, but somewhere in the north end. Like Fred says, it's constant. There's no breaks. In Moore Avenue, there's a light, but there's no breaks otherwise in traffic, so.
So from Winn-Dixie on up, there is none. Is that correct? Nothing
Right.
north of Winn-Dixie?
There's nothing. But, but we don't have a lot of reason for people, other than to go to the beach because that's mostly Daytona Beach on that side, to go to the beach. We don't have a lot of pedestrians. But they will go, they go to Bodiford, there's a light there. But
So that's true. Okay, so where are they
difficult.
coming from and where are they going to is very important.
Fred, he's an engineer. He understands that.
Any questions for our Director of Public Safety before I have a couple audience comments? Okay, thank you very much, I appreciate it. I'll just tell you right now, if you wish to speak, I know you're new and we welcome you here. There's a form in the back that you can fill out, and I will call on you and you can
Does
speak.
that pertain to asking random questions?
At the end, there will be there will be an audience comment. So if you would like to fill out one of those forms, and you can talk about anything you want to at the end. Okay? All right, thank you so much. All right, so first do you have something? I'm sorry, one
Yeah,
moment.
this wasn't read or discussed.
Gotten to?
That's the second one. This is A, this is B.
Should we review now?
One moment, please. Okay, so under new business, we're under pedestrian crosswalks, and I think that's B.
Okay.
Is that right?
I thought that you mentioned this.
Okay,
I'm
all
sorry.
right, thank you, sorry. Monica, if you'd like to come up, please. Thank you, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, no, we won't take that away, okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. My name is Monica Paris. I live at 120 C Spray Street in Daytona Beach. I'm here for the second time to request a crosswalk at C Spray Street in A1A. It's at an intersection where Sunoco Gas Station and Andronopolis Park off-beach parking is. I'm not sure when they did the study 6 years ago if Sunoco was actually there, but it was on the list that they said that they had 42 pedestrians crossing. As the chief said, a pedestrian was struck and killed on February 8th at Dundee and A1A, which is a block north of this location. Unfortunately, this shows a great need for a crosswalk and the safety of our residents and visitors, which is a necessity. Daytona Beach Shores is a very active community, and it's a proven fact that walkable neighborhoods give residents and businesses greater opportunities to mingle while they work, shop, dine, and enhance their sense of community. I do believe it would properly be placed at Sea Spray because they do have off-beach parking, and right across the street is direct access. Maybe we could put some speed bumps. I'm not a professional, maybe to slow down the people to do this. Like I said, I don't know when Sunoco opened, if Sunoco was there 6 years ago, because I could say that they do have a lot of people coming in and out. I did get a petition signed by the residents, the businesses that are there. Sunoco signed it, Stroud's Barbecue, Tres Leches, Aloha Laundry. Also, across the street, we have Perennial Vacation Club, which signed it, Sea Oats Condominium Resort. Sand and Surf said they would come today. I don't know if they attended. I also went to the Delta Marriott. They said that their workers park across the street, so it is difficult for them to cross the street to get to work. I do apologize, hold on.
That's fine.
Take your time.
Okay, well, I guess despite all of the previous recommendations for 2018, I do believe that a crosswalk at A1A and Sea Spray Street should take precedence. I've been there since 2017, and we've had a lot of Airbnbs that are closed down because they're not permitted in our area. So there are people that have bought into the area. They have small children. A lot of people work, so they take the bus on A1A. And we also have a lot of seniors that walk their dogs, and we have the Peninsula Club, which is another condominium, and the Bella Vista. So we think that if we have the crosswalk there, it would allow for the people even to go to the businesses across the street, which 2 new businesses did open there, and they are doing well, which I'm really happy about. So I hope that the city council and the mayor would seriously consider putting a crosswalk there, and maybe the speed bumps would help. So that's it.
Did you say you had a petition with you?
I do.
Okay, and do you have all those signed with their addresses?
I have everything here.
Great, great, okay, if you want to give that to our city clerk. Just curious, are most of them that sign that people that live in the shores, or are they in Daytona?
Well, this is the thing, because the way the property line is situated, whoever's on A1A or on Peninsula is either Daytona Beach Shores or Volusia County, and then in my little middle area there, we're Daytona Beach. So it's difficult to get all Daytona Beach Shores people. But like I said, I don't know when Sunoco opened, but since we do have that gas station there and the new businesses, there is a lot of traffic.
And then we have 2 of those offshore. I don't see that many people parking there. I know if something happens and we no longer have beach driving, those would be very, very popular. I know we have the one Angelopolis, but also the Beachcomber that has off-beach, but I don't really see a lot of parking at either one of those. Do you know where Beachcomber is?
Well, it's a block over.
Okay.
I don't know where that beach parking is, but I know that on the.
Both of those were designed that the parking's right next to them.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't see. Okay, if you could give Sherry that thing, and Monica, I want to tell you, I know you put a lot of work into this. I really, really appreciate it.
I love my community and the people that moved into, they're from California, they're from Chicago, they moved from Orlando, so everyone's really happy to be there, but it's just difficult for us to get to the beach. And also, like I said, we have a lot of seniors in our area that walk their dogs from the condominiums, and they have this little group, so they all meet, so it's just even to be safer for them. All right, thank you, guys.
Okay, we have someone else that would like to talk about pedestrian crossings. Rick Brown?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Anybody that's spent any time in...
Sorry, Rick, could you say your name and address again?
Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, 2917 South Atlantic, 903.
Thank you.
Full name is actually Frederick Brown. I've heard a lot of good comments and even from the council members that, this is something, if you've lived here for any period of time, you know that this is a beach community. It's our #1 draw. It's the reason we all live here. And people are going to cross, and that's an issue. To go with old school thinking or an endless stream of studies that we've done over the years, this last one is now 5 years old. Has there been changes? Sure. We got a very high density community now at Ridge Road, and that's an area where I would like to have one. One of the things that, in addition to data, and I'm a retired engineer, so I have a lot of respect for some of the information that Fred presented, but data doesn't tell you everything, and data can be skewed. I just know from years of living here that I've observed things, and there's a thing called common sense. And I want to try and apply a little bit of that to that. It's a tragedy that we had somebody just recently killed, and as far as I can see, it's completely unnecessary. Had action been taken. There are other technologies, as was pointed out by Councilmember Bryant, that we have not looked at. There's a company called U.S. Barricades, and I'm sure Fred's probably familiar with it. But, I listen to not only, or look at my observations going through the city over the years, but I also listen to comments from people in social media. And one of the things I've read is how confusing these crosswalks are, and I got to agree. Now, I do stop, and it depends on, I've had the opportunity to live in Japan for a period of time where the citizens there religiously follow the pedestrian crosswalks. In fact, when some of the expatriates from America were over there, they would get frowned at for not using. But they religiously, I don't care if it's pouring rain, they will walk up to the crosswalk and stand there until late. We don't do that here in America. And as Fred pointed out, old school, it's always bigger, faster, et cetera, over the years, and that's how we've done things. But since my time is short, I'm going to sum up some other comments I would like to make. I would like to see the city get a task force involving citizens, because you have people like myself and others who have personally witnessed some of the tragedies. And I would love to volunteer my engineering background and experience and amalgamate some of the comments that each of the members of the council have presented. Commissioner Lindauer also had some great comments about crosswalks to nowhere. And this is where you amalgamate the common sense with the engineering data. And I would love to be on that task force. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't have anyone else that wants to speak on this, and I'll let you talk at the end, but anyone else that wants to talk about crosswalks? I mean, we've all lived here for a while. You know, if you have an opinion, I'll allow you to come up for comment. Patty? You can just state your name and address, and then when you're done, if you'd fill out one of these forms, that'd be great. Thank you.
Patty Blaze, 3343 South Atlantic, Unit 302. And mine is just more of a question, and it's in response, Mr. Vice Mayor, to your comment about standing there, people in the right. Are there consequences if a car goes through? Because I know personally on a couple of occasions, and this is no disrespect at all to our esteemed police department, but on 2 occasions I've witnessed cops doing their speed radar right there by crosswalks, and cars are buzzing through, nearly killing pedestrians, and there's never any consequence for the car going through. So are there consequences, or is it just the pedestrian that has to beware and look?
I don't know the law, but the chief does, so why don't we let the chief answer that?
There's a huge misconception about the right-of-way of a pedestrian in a crosswalk.
Yep.
In the state of Florida, you are not entitled to that crosswalk until you've actually got into the crosswalk. So when we see people standing on the sidewalk or on the side of the road and they have not entered the crosswalk and cars go by without stopping, that is not illegal. And my officers are constantly getting harangued, why didn't you stop this car, why didn't you stop this car? But the person, and now think about how foolish that is for you to put your foot out there when the car is coming by. So it's a catch-22 with the laws in the state of Florida. The laws are not written to help pedestrians. They're written to keep cars moving. And my officers are bound by the state of Florida law. So now I'm not saying that we're perfect and that we're catching everybody. Come on, that's crazy. But we do write tickets and we do catch people running through crosswalks when the pedestrian is legally in the crosswalk. But they have to be inside the crosswalk. And that's a misconception with a lot of people. But the law is the law. If you don't believe me, ask the engineer.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, if there's no other comments, that was just a discussion for this evening, so we'll take it into consideration, talking to staff about that task force. Thank you very much for the suggestion. And if there's nothing else, we're going to move on to item B. And Attorney Carey, would you read that for us, please? That's the motor micro mobility device ordinance. Do you need the
You
paper?
need the written copy?
If you have it, yeah, I can read it off the paper.
Okay, you'll see all my notes on it too.
It will go. Okay. Thank you. Okay, this, I don't think we have an ordinance number assigned to it yet. Do we, Sherry?
You do not.
Okay. This is ordinance 2021 blank that will be assigned for the next meeting. An ordinance of the City of Daytona Beach Shores, Florida, relating to the regulation of micromobility devices within the City of Daytona Beach Shores, providing for legislative findings and intent, providing definitions, creating a pilot program for the rental of micromobility devices, providing requirements for obtaining a permit, providing requirements for emergency storage, providing criteria for the city to impound and properly stored vehicles, requiring companies to indemnify the city, providing insurance requirements for companies engaging in rental of micromobility devices, requiring retailers to provide certain records upon request of the city, making findings, providing for conflicts, severability, codification, and effective date.
Thank you, Attorney Carey. Do I hear a motion to accept this ordinance?
Motion to accept.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thank you. And what discussion do we have on this?
I've got a number of things. The City attorney doesn't have a copy.
I've got it on my computer.
Okay, on Article 1 in general, Section 16-24.2, item number 2, this seems vague to me. Company means a business that owns or operates a fleet of micro-mobility devices. I would like to respectfully request that it be changed to a company means a business that owns or operates one or more micro, because a fleet is very vague. It doesn't define, I think, one or more. If a company is in business and it rents one or more, it's a business and it should fall under this. Because otherwise people would say, I don't own a fleet.
Mel, with all due respect, let me explain to you a little bit of how I see that that's not really going to work. What the ordinance was designed is to give a little preference to those retailers, instead of not call it a company, but retailers that retail the product and also rent it. Because all you got to do is, let's say you're a hotel, you're a restaurateur, even a bar owner, you can open up a little sub-S company and call yourself, or a sub-S corporation and call yourself a company, and all you need is one, and now you're in the same category and competing with people who rely on this as their main part of their business. And remember last time we were here, I think there was 2 businesses here in town. I know the one was Boogie Down and the other one was the gentleman on Dunlop.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and I think you're right, though. You were sharp to point it out, because I think maybe the language could parallel the retailer like it is on the second page.
Okay.
I agree with you. I was just trying to...
Say primary, their primary business.
We do want to keep separate the distinction between the.
Their retailer is a primary person, that's their primary business, like Rick said. Yeah.
And you had some other notes on there, Vice Mayor?
Are we going to impound in emergency storage? We're going to impound any left out in an emergency? Are we going to impound these?
It's on page 5.
Whether we do or not is a matter of administration for the city manager and the police chief, and, but the ordinance would allow us to.
And I like the part where it says that you have to have a driver's license. I think that is a major achievement in this, the problems that we had. One of the things that I noticed in here, we did say that we want them to do some training, and we talked about single file, but nowhere in here does it say that we have to alert people, even when they're in single file, when they're coming behind a pedestrian, they need to alert the pedestrian in some fashion that they are coming behind them, because they're gonna scare these people when they come flying by them. And also, when I'm walking faster than pedestrians, I say, coming up on your left, I let them know that I'm going to be passing them on the left. Number one, I don't want to scare them, and number two, I let them know so that they can move to the right. I think that it's even more imperative that people on faster moving vehicles, like these scooters and that, do some kind of give the pedestrians some kind of an alert that they're coming up behind them, and which side they're going to choose to pass on. I think that's important. I don't know what the others think about that, but anyway, that is a point that I think is very important.
Thank you for that feedback. I do have, before we take a vote on it, I have someone that would like to speak on it. Mickey Peterson?
Yes.
If you could come up and just say your name and address, please.
Yes. Thank you, Council and Mayor. Mickey Peterson, Flamingo Inn at 2011 South Atlantic. I run this small hotel right there and rent out the scooters. Business is back. Hotel business is now good. We have more families than I can just ever remember even having. And the scooters are popular. It's just good for the hotel business, period. It is the best amenity that I have ever had to be able to offer to a guest. And of course, I also make commissions from the company, which I'm also not against. And I'm really happy that at least this city is willing to at least look at it and not just ban it altogether, because that is what has happened in other cities where I do have business. But I would like to maybe see if there's a way, because I am a hotel, and I have been involved with this since the beginning. First as a consumer, I rode the scooters myself, and then as a retailer. But on page 4, in there where it says staging, the number 7, it says something about that all micromobility devices must be stored indoors. I'm not saying that it's impossible. I'm just saying that for my particular business, that would be very difficult. Maybe storing them out of view of the public would maybe be a possibility, but indoors would be extremely difficult for me. So I was hoping that maybe the city council would consider making some changes to that particular section of it.
Correct me, city attorney, if I'm not accurate, but doesn't unless the retailer is a hotel defined within section 2.2, so doesn't the hotel get the same deference as the retailer? So I think Mickey will be okay.
Well, so I think what he's referring to is under subparagraph 7.
That's what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
It says staging. A retailer may stage a maximum of 6 micromobility devices outdoors on the property of the retailer during the retailer's normal business hours, unless the retailer is a hotel as defined in section 2.2. So that means you're putting the hotel owner in that same retailer.
Right, yes.
So you're safe.
So I don't need to store them inside?
No, because it says, in which case, all micromobility devices must be stored indoors. But the paragraph and the way it's read, and that's why I'm looking to the attorney, because he's the attorney.
Yes.
But I think you're in the clear.
Right.
And John,
The
Attorney Karen,
distinction
can you?
here is that hotels that already have the scooters as of today, because that's the date that's written in the ordinance.
Right.
That could be changed, because the discussion a couple weeks ago, I think that you had indicated that you would like to limit these at hotels, but not affect the ones that already have them.
And
So
do you
if they
currently
already
have them, Mickey?
Then they are defined as a real retailer, and so they fall under the same rules as other retailers if you already have them. If you don't already have them, then they can't be stored outdoors.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm so happy I misread that, and I shouldn't have even brought it up.
There you go, Mickey.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do with that is limit the proliferation of them at hotels that don't already use them, so that they don't become an outdoor eyesore at every single hotel across the city.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. And well, maybe I misread the next point too, but I'm going to lay it out anyway. Under the conditions of rental, am I understanding it correctly that when I'm at the hotel and I'm renting out these scooters, or they're sitting in my driveway for rental, would I then be obligated to train people on how to use them? Or would you consider maybe allowing the companies to put it in their programming as a training manual that you have to sign and agree to after you have gone through it? So it could be an electronic training video instead of being a physical person doing it.
Yeah, so that would depend on if the companies that operate the fleets have that kind of technology. If they have that technology to do that, then that would be a viable option. But if they don't, that would fall on the people who are renting it, because somebody has to do it.
Would the commission be open to maybe making the change that if the company has the technology, in lieu of an in-person doing it, an electronic training video could be acceptable prior to renting?
Mickey, you weren't here last time. There's one company that has a video and requires everyone to watch the video, and then they'll rent them the unit. So if you have that same technology, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, then my whole point was
Glad you
you, but
came.
it's great talking to you guys anyway. So,
No residents leave as happy as you.
Thank you for coming in. So I think we're ready
And
now.
to clarify, this has to be written assuming that more companies
May come in.
May come in. Right now, we only do have the one. Correct. Okay, Sherry, anything?
Mayor, because my department, I believe, is going to be the one that's issuing these permits and enforcing this. So that question, these things are staged outside. There's 6 of them in front of every business that has one. Folks walk up, they use their phone, they get on the thing, and they take off. So I don't know.
Yeah, so
At what point do you think they're going to sit down and watch a video? I don't see that happening.
We need to make it happen.
I mean, unless the retailer's gonna stage a person out there with the 6, which I don't envision. I don't
would
see
you
that.
mind I make a comment to that?
Or you'd have to come back up. The only reason we're saying this is a public meeting and we need record of it.
Okay, is it okay to speak?
Yeah.
With the training video, what I meant was that maybe it's a video you have to watch before you can even activate that particular scooter, is how I meant it. So that you couldn't just click, because I agree with you, if it's voluntary, I probably wouldn't watch the video. I would just click and hop on the scooter. But maybe if the technology is there, you may have to watch it before you can actually even unlock the scooter.
Are you able to do that? Excuse me. Are you able to do that now, to decide to basically disable them until they come in and watch a video?
I believe that these companies, they just seem to be very savvy with this tech, and I believe they could probably design it like that. And I say that without knowing it 100% for sure myself, but I've heard all kinds of stuff they can do. They can something they call geofencing, and they can actually shut off the scooters when they turn down certain streets, and there's very little that I've heard that they cannot do electronically.
Yeah, but you would be the one responsible for making sure they watch the video,
Yes,
however you did it.
yes, exactly.
I think it would have to be in the app that the user would
Scan.
use. So I have the app on my phone. I'm gonna go rent one of these scooters. Before I could rent it, the company would put a video that I would watch on my telephone before I rented it.
Before it unlocks it, so I
Before it
can.
unlocks it for you to take it off. So, but that would rely on the company. It wouldn't be the business.
One comment I would make, I certainly would agree that the video is the desirable way to do it. I would not let them just sign an agreement saying, have you read the agreement, and I agree to it, because nobody reads these agreements. You just click the I agree and that's it. And that's it on just about anything on the computers or phones. So I think the video that would be required. I would not be willing to accept somebody that just checks a box that I read the agreement.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, Sherry, can you take the vote, please?
I'd like to.
Oh, I'm sorry, wait.
I'd like to author a motion to accept the accept the ordinance, allow the city attorney to clarify some of that language that makes the discrepancy between company and retailer. But the rest of the ordinance is fine, so I think we can vote on it with the exception of that amendment to give you that carte blanche to clean it up.
Right, and it'll come back for second reading.
Okay, right.
I'll second it. Do you have enough direction to handle this?
Oh, he does.
Yes, I do, absolutely.
Okay.
So the training issue, I didn't see that we needed to change the ordinance. That's more of the companies have to figure out how they're going to do that and administer it. I don't think we're going to change the ordinance to micromanage how they do it as long as they.
No.
We could care less.
Okay.
But the way it's written, the responsibility is on the person running it.
Correct.
I mean, the person that's renting out the scooters.
Yeah,
The business is
I can take the language.
Okay, so we have a motion on the
Ordinance.
new ordinance, yeah, and a second, and so, Sherry, can you take a vote, please?
Councilmember Politis?
Yes.
Councilmember Frizzlone?
Yes.
Councilmember Bryan?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Lindauer?
Yes.
Mayor Miller?
Yes, thank you. Now we're going to go on to council comments. Councilman Politis, what do you have for us?
I don't have any comments.
Okay, Councilman.
No, I think it's great to see so much participation here, and I thank everybody for coming and everybody giving input, particularly to the crosswalks.
Thank you very much. What I want to bring up right now, and this is for next month's meeting, no workshop, it's a regular meeting. I've been getting a little bit of feedback, so I want to refresh your memory that after we had the shutdown for COVID, we had a period that we, I don't want to say we turned our backs or turned our eyes, but what we did in a way, we had some outside seating that we didn't make them follow the regular procedure. We let them have flags out, different things that really are not in our code. And so now, you know, Fred and his department are to the point right now, we're going back to where we were before. So I've gotten some feedback on that, but remember, all we're doing is saying, I think last time, we didn't set a date on it that we were gonna end it. And probably that was our bad. So right now, would you say 10 months we've been doing that, Fred?
Somewhere in that neighborhood, we've been relaxing our standards. with
Exactly,
regards
thank
to
you. Thank you for that.
outdoor signs and banners and.
So relaxing our standards, so the assignment before next meeting is to go up A1A, and you're gonna see some of those flags floating there that are not really our code. So some businesses have reached out to me that they would like to continue to do those. We're gonna have to decide, do we want them maybe to do it for the first 2 weeks of a brand-new open business? And if you want that flag out there longer than that, then we do have that special ordinance that you can do for 21 days, so you can use it then. So we're not voting on it tonight, we're not doing anything, except I would like everybody to look at it before next meeting and let me know how you feel about it. And I think that's it. Nancy, do we have a concert this week? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's Mark Monison and Linda Cole, so they do jazz and blues.
And as much as everyone loved those food trucks, no food trucks till June 25th, but it'll be a wonderful concert, and we'll have a great time.
I have no comments.
Okay.
I'd like to echo Rick's appreciation for the audience. I was on the previous council, and we were lucky if we had 1 or 2 people at most of the meetings, except when
We
something
appreciate
was
you being here.
controversial was building heights were being discussed. I'd also like to give everybody, particularly the council, an update on the bills that we passed the resolution on. The Senate bill, which is 334, I believe, has gone through 2 subcommittees with a vote of 8 to 1 and 5 to 0. So if we can get it on the agenda of the subcommittees, it appears, popular. On the House side, it's gone through 1 subcommittee with a vote of 15 to 2. And so the House is going to be, if it fails, it'll be on the House side probably. It doesn't get through the 3 committees, but I'm still somewhat optimistic that it will get through the House. And so that's pretty much, there have been a couple of amendments that'll probably, the bill will probably end up having the amendments. This one will probably make Michael happy. They're going to exempt cigars. And
Smart people.
I'm sitting next to him, he's absolutely delighted.
The Senate bill says cigarette smoking will be banned in state parks. That may, and the House bill doesn't, so if I were to guess, I would say it will end up that they won't be banned in state parks, but that's just a guess at this point in time.
I'd like to rescind my pass and agree with Rick and Richard. I want to thank everybody for coming out and sharing your thoughts with us. That's the only way we know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong and which way you'd like us to go. So thanks again for everybody coming out.
Yeah. Thank you. And I do have one audience comment, and this is a new member for our city, new resident. Come on up. Is it Jeff Marco? Marco? Okay, and if you could give us your address and what you'd like to do.
2967 South Atlantic.
All right, and you are also a resident of Ocean 6, new resident, Ocean 6?
That's it.
Okay, what would you like to talk
Just
about?
two quick comments. The officer said that it will be an offense for the motorist once the person steps inside the crosswalk. So that has to therefore include being in the middle.
Of the crosswalk.
No,
Right?
not in the middle.
Well, you're inside the
He has to
crosswalk.
step in this crosswalk out of the middle, out of the median. Again,
Would you clarify for us, please, Director?
We've agonized over that, and we believe those traffic islands are not in the crosswalk.
They're exempt? So you're in no man's land.
Now I can't even get it back.
Yeah, I can't blame it on him now.
Once you get to the island, you're in the middle, you're on an island, and you gotta do
man's
it again
land.
on the other side.
Well, doesn't make sense to me.
The median is
Doesn't make sense
considered
to me
right of
either.
way like a sidewalk is.
Who's talking?
What's that, John?
The median is considered right of way like a sidewalk is.
Okay. So then it becomes an issue of this or this. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's just me. The other thing I thought, just coming over here this evening, my wife and I almost got run over by 3 scooters zooming down the sidewalk. Why not just have the scooters put a darn bell on it, like we did when we rode bicycles? And that would solve a lot of problems. Because it's an automatic thing, and these kids who ride them would love to do that. So just put a bell on the scooter.
Well, that was the point that I was bringing up, that they need to let people know that they're around and coming.
But if there's a bell on the scooter, it makes it easy.
I agree.
And that's about a $3 deal per scooter. That's all.
Okay, well, thank you again. Welcome to Daytona Beach Shores. We're glad to have you here.
Don't get run over.
All right, does anybody have anything for the next agenda?
it's hard to enforce.
Sure, I'd like you to add that we have the discussion then about relooking at, the flags and the outside seating.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you very much for coming.